It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Mandy the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
Les Webster.
Hello all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello everybody.
How are y'all doing?
Delightful.
Right. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop in.
That sounds awfully bitter there, gang.
It is.
Oh, okay. I don't feel so bad. Okay.
I hope everybody out there is doing okay. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well, this week, life is still being weird to me. But so, what I've got, because of that, sort of, not really. But anyway, I'm going to throw a Kickstarter comic out to the masses. This is called the Edgar Allan Poe Chronicles, and it is slated at this point to be a 120-page graphic novel, which is a collection of interpretations of Poe stories. And so, yeah, I'm pretty much in on something like this. When this show drops, there'll still be about 2 weeks left, believe it or not, and it is blown well past the goal. So this book's happening. But I got turned on to this thanks to Madeline Holly Rosing, and it was one of those deals where she put out a link to it on Twitter, and I took one look at it, and I'm like, damn it, Madeline, really? Because it's just like, there's no way I can not. I mean, come on, it's Poe. And just, there's a couple of pages of sample stuff here, and it's all just really pretty. And I mean, the reason she blasted it out was because she's writing one of the stories in it, along with a pretty cool list of other writers and artists on this stuff. A couple of notables. Pat Shand has got a story in it. Like I said, Madeline has a story. Flipping through the artists, I'm not... Okay, that's really probably all the ones that I recognize. There are tons of others. So go take a look at it. Like I said, the Edgar Allan Poe Chronicles on Kickstarter.
And of course, you'll have a link on that in the show notes. So
yeah, I'm sure I will.
So just scroll down and click on that link and check it out.
Yep.
Cool.
It's cool.
That does sound pretty cool.
Alrighty.
Well, my week, the positive side of my week, I guess doing a little bit of research for a show, spoiler alert, I caught up on a lot of my Superman stuff that I've kind of been putting off to the side. And I had to teach the importance of not putting binder clips on my comics.
Oh.
Yeah. Almost had to look for a divorce lawyer over that one.
Oh, no.
Oh. That's no good.
Yeah.
No bueno,
before
Phil.
they were
No
bagged
bueno.
and board. So, usually when I pick up my comics, I'll leave them in the car because I sit for an hour waiting for a kid to come out of school. So I'll read while I'm in the car. Well, cleaning my car, that's how they all come in. And it was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Have you ever seen my comics like this? Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I've, like I said, I caught up on a lot of Superman. I looked over some of my favorite stories and stuff, and some of the good, some of the bad,
Take them all, and all you got is the facts of life?
Yep. Nope, you have Superman.
Okay.
She just wouldn't take your joke, would she?
No, she wouldn't. And that's okay. It wasn't a good one. I admit that.
She's still bitter about the binder clips thing, I guess.
I
I
think
am.
so.
Had to relive it again, you know.
Flashbacks. Ah.
I guess they were like my B-list comics, you know. My A-list are automatically bagged and board when I get them, but yeah, still,
Wow.
it hurt.
Right. Even if there's just your reading copies, it's still owie.
Yeah, he'll learn. I'll learn him good.
It's a very painful item, I know that.
Yeah.
Well, she'll let him out of the Iron Maiden at some point. It's
Yeah.
it's all good.
Yeah. Notice you don't hear him tonight.
Wow.
Nice knowing you, Phil.
It's been real, Phil.
See you on the other side.
He went to the Phantom Zone.
Dang, tough crowd tonight.
Well, for me, not much. I caught up on some television, which is not all that difficult to do anyway. But it was pretty quiet, all in all. Oh, I don't mean this to be pompous, but I did join the Kickstarter crew. I bought my first item for Kickstarter.
You haven't bought anything until now? Holy cow.
No?
Was it that game? That Batman game?
Yes.
It was the Batman game.
That
Oh,
does
wow.
not surprise me at all. Cool.
That is cool.
We'll have to have a Batman game party when it shows up.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll spread it out over 2-3 acres and see what we've got.
Oh, so you did talk her into the big one.
So
I
say,
guess
how'd
I
you
did.
do that?
Yes, I was amazed too, actually.
I just said, we need this, and she says, okay, so.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then it'll show up when it shows up, and she'll be like, what the hell is this?
Who said you could get this?
Actually, she sat there and helped me buy it.
This
so.
is not what you described to me.
I thought we could ride the Batmobile.
You said this was full size. No.
Not even
cool.
Barbie size.
If you're Lilliputian, yeah.
Well, cool.
That is cool.
Congrats. Well, for me, I was supposed to go out of town, but something had come up, so I wasn't able to go. And I was hoping to do some reading. I didn't do as much as I would like. I did pick up the Hawk and Dove trade that I had talked about on a previous podcast, and I had never read the origin before, and I thought the origin was kind of interesting. Those who remember me talking about it, it's brothers, Don and Hank Hall, and they're literally Hawk and Dove. Don is more of the pacifist. We can talk it out, we can reason. Where Hank is the okay, let's talk with our fists and that kind of stuff, and they essentially that's how they got their they were given an opportunity to have these powers for just a duration while they resolve whatever conflict that's going on. And then once that happens, they temporarily, they lose their powers, they lose the costume, and they're back to normal. And I didn't realize that in the early issues, they were being pursued by their dad, who was a judge. They actually gained their powers to try to rescue their father. And he found out about Hawk and Dove, and he was like, "Well, these are vigilantes. We gotta, they're fighting outside the bounds of law. So we got to do something about these." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Cool.
It was kind of interesting, and
Fun
we're talking
twist.
Yeah, and we're talking late 60s, so, I mean, the stuff they were talking about was, I mean, the country was not ever mentioned, but you kind of know what was being discussed, especially in the first issue, so.
I bet.
And another one, I gotta make a recommendation. I know it's been on our pick list in the past, but this latest issue was just awesome. And it's Scooby Doo Team Up. This latest issue, they team up with Angel and the Ape, which is from the old 60s DC comic. But the thing is, it's not only them. There's also the Inferior Five in the issue. There's Stanley and his pet monster in there. Those are both from the 60s. And then there was another appearance, which I'm not gonna say right now because it's a spoiler, and it was kind of a surprise to see them. But it's really cool. These team up books. I mean, sometimes it's the gang, the Scooby Gang, with another Hanna-Barbera, but sometimes they do DC characters, but they don't always do just the popular ones. I mean, they have kind of gone back and pulled out characters that you wouldn't regularly recognize. I mean, you know, they had the Challengers of the Unknown recently. They had the Legion of Superheroes. They've had Plastic Man. They did the Birds of Prey. It's really been cool to kind of read these. It's been fun, and this one was really kind of knocked my socks off. I was like, wow, you know, kids are not going to understand that these characters were created 50 years ago or 60 years ago, but those who are somewhat familiar with them, of course, Les knows all these characters, and I know them to a degree. It's kind of cool to see them again. So,
I agree.
Definitely check out that series.
Cool.
Because they've been fun reads as well. So, have you had a chance to read that one yet, Les?
Not yet, but it is on the list.
Yeah, I probably kind of made you want to read it a little sooner, didn't I?
Kind of, sort of.
Alrighty. Before we get into this week's topic, I want to take a few minutes to thank our sponsors, the fine folks at Things from Another World, for supporting the fellowship. And right now, they are running a great deal of free shipping on orders of $40 or more in-stock comics and graphic novels, and this is through May 31st. This is in addition to their evergreen deals of 40% off comics, statues, toys, and merchandise, 30% off select pre-order manga titles, and 50% off Ninkadent comics. Now, if you want some more information about some of these deals, especially the free shipping, just head over to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and click on the sponsors tab, and there's all the information you do to take advantage of the free shipping. And like I said, that's through May 31st, so you got plenty of time, but hey, you may, whatever you're looking for may not be there at that time, so hey, you might want to check it out now. And if you click on the links that we have provided you there, that'll let them know that we sent you their way, and have some fun. Take advantage of these deals. Alrighty. For this week, I wanted to spend a little time with a super friend of ours. Hint, hint. April 18th will be the 80th anniversary of the release of Action Comics #1. And this is the first appearance of Superman and basically the creation of the superhero as we know it. Because until then, before then, comics were pretty much funny animals. That some of it may have been reprints of newspaper strips and that kind of thing. I'm not even sure if the pulp heroes were around at that point. I don't know if they were before, like some of Shadow, probably like Shadow or Phantom, that kind of stuff. They may have been around. I'm not sure of as a comic in comic book form, but they were, but so 80 years of Superman. So I figured we ought to take a couple of moments or a little bit longer and celebrate this milestone and talk a little bit about how important the character is and why he has lasted so long. So who would like to go first? How about you, Les?
Okay. Superman is 12 years older than me, which is pretty phenomenal. The character has a staying power that is beyond reach. Superman was created by two people from Cleveland, Ohio, and they had done the book similar to what I and most listeners have done to start your comic book, and that's on regular paper. They didn't have storyboards at that time, and it was more or less almost like what we would call a fanzine now. Please recall the title. The Coming of the Superman?
The Reign of Superman. The Reign of Superman.
The Reign of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, the main character was a despot. He was one that wanted war. This obviously is totally against the thought process of Superman. And luckily, the reign of the Superman was denied by the publishers, but it was retooled to make Superman a hero. Comics had some heroes at that time, but nothing to the extent of a man with multiple powers. The ability to see through items, the item or the idea that he could fly, which now you think, well, don't most super characters fly? He was the groundwork for the superhero surge. He was the reason behind some pulp figures. The man was revered by what was being done in the publishing world at that time. At first, it was not noticed, but it didn't take long for people to figure out that this is something amazing, something that had not been accomplished or even fronted. So that's where I would say that his longevity stems. Just the idea that he was the first, he is still around, he's undergone many changes, but most of them are to the good. He prompted a radio show. He was one of the first to film. He was probably the first for television. And then the movies that came later were known for stepping out there and being the first superhero to step on the big screen. I have total admiration for the creators and all of those that have built his legacy from the start. And I think that if you were to find some collections from the early stuff, it is truly amazing as to see how he has evolved through the years.
Oh yeah. I mean, what some people don't realize, you hear was it faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive,
able to leap
and
tall
able to
billions at a single bound.
That was essentially his powers. He had strength. He had some great strength, and he was fast, and he could leap. He couldn't even fly in the early issues.
Right.
And to say nothing of the different vision powers and everything else that's been added over the years. He was just basically a big, strong guy who can jump real high and run real fast.
He was Huck.
Oh, here she goes again.
Wow. Okay.
No, Huck was Superman. That's the deal.
Yeah.
Superman is the template here, not the other way around.
Well, he was the old Superman.
Uh-huh. One of the little stories I spotted that I had not heard before, because right up front, I'm not a huge Superman guy. I have an appreciation for him. Like I said, he's the template for everything that has come since, to an extent, one way or another. But the story about the flight thing, I thought the story I read, whether it's the real story or the true story or whatever, it was an interesting story. And apparently it was directly related to the animated shorts that they started doing fairly early on, not the book itself. Apparently it was going to be easier to animate him just flying than it would be to animate him jumping all the time. And so they asked if they could make him fly instead, and they said, okay, and they just did that in the books as well. But, I mean, that's, again, we're talking about a brand new character. I mean, he'd only been out a few years at this point. He was popular, but it's that evolution thing, which is one of the things that I think makes Superman, well, one, important and special, and two, as long-lived as he's been. I mean, he's been around for 80 years. Why? Because he's evolved, because he's changed to either fit what the expectation is coming to be, or to evolve into kind of what he needs to be, which is kind of that all-American hero type.
Yep, I agree. I think a lot of people look at him and think that they kind of aspire to be him. Not just and I'm not talking about having powers, although who wouldn't love to be able to fly and that kind of thing, but just to do the right things and be strong in your convictions and be the he's a true hero. He does the right thing. He's
got the selfless thing down for sure.
Yes, definitely. And I think there's some people that certainly it's admirable. Then of course there's always the good stories.
There've been a few of those, huh?
Yep, a few.
So while I'm not a big Superman fan, Superman's played a big part in my life because of my nerd buddy. It's one of his favorites, and like you were saying, people look up to him, and I think one of the big things that he looks up to is Superman doesn't get sick. He never gets hurt. He's the Boy Scout kind of person, but I know that a lot of his stories have changed the way people think about things. And like I said, my brother-in-law is really big into Superman. He's probably laughing while he's listening to this because I have to talk about Superman.
Hey, he's listening. That's cool.
Yeah, right.
We'll take it.
All right. Because our big thing is Batman versus Superman, So when the movie came out, I got to laugh all the way home. But I think he really got into Superman because of Romita when he came back to DC, and I think Superman was one of the first titles that he took on, and just the artwork changed and the whole story got better, and we had Unchained and those kind of stories. But I've liked the older Superman, which I would never tell him that, but like when Dan Jurgens was writing them. And, of course, that was during the time when they killed him. Go figure, it's one of my favorite stories, huh?
Yeah, but that's another show.
Right. And it was...
We've already done that show.
Flashback time.
Right. But just the brutal way that Superman was killed, it was kind of like, oh, my God, here's this guy who can't get hurt. He's the alien who's above all. I guess people were calling him a god at this time. And, he's laid out in the street, literally in the street. So, that always, I guess that was the first time I had read something that was really shocking, because at that point when they killed Superman, it's kind of like, oh my God, you killed Superman. I think that event, they black bagged everything. So you didn't know what covers you were getting or anything. And over 3 million copies of it was sold. So it was definitely the big thing because, like I said, you don't kill Superman, They had fake newspaper articles written up about it and everything else. And, to me, I think that Superman deserved a better death than what he was given in that story. And when they were wrapping up the New 52 here not too long ago, I think that's the death that Superman should have gotten to begin with. If we were going to kill Superman, if we were going to go there, just to have Superman go out the way that he wanted to go out, saving the world, of course, but
Gee, spoilers.
It wasn't. Well, you're not past the New 52 catch-up, people.
Right.
But it was just kind of... I have a bad habit of, when I get my comics, I thumb through the last couple of pages.
That is a bad habit. Holy cow.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
What is that? I don't know what,
Read that damn book and you'll find out.
I saw something on Twitter a while back. I think it was Heather Entos, the former editor for Marvel, saying something that she gets a new book, she'll read like the last page or like the last paragraph when she gets it. And I saw this whole discussion, and she's not the only one that does this. And I'm like, what? Why?
Why would
I
you
don't
do
understand.
that? Right. It's the people that do that are weird. I'm telling you.
Well, for me, weirdo number one over here. I guess to me it tells me how the story's going to go. If I can read the last couple of pages and I know what's going on, then the story's going to suck. It didn't move along at all since the last issue, kind of like a soap opera. You can miss 2 weeks and step back in and not miss anything. But also...
Hang on here.
Let's address these one at a time, please.
Yeah, let's go back to the fact that you're going to take a 22-page book and you're going to look at the last page and go, okay, yeah, this is something I'm going to really want to read. I'm like,
yeah.
What?
After you bought it. After you paid money for it.
Well,
you knew you were going to read it anyway.
Well, see, and
honestly,
also,
that
part
point
of
I
my
don't care
defense...
because she had bought it, so thank you. But
Totally.
I got into this habit when I was sorting new comics, though, and I didn't have time to read everything. So if you read the last couple of pages, you kind of get the idea of the story, and if someone comes in, you can go, oh yeah, that's about this.
See, you'd have saved all this argument if you'd explained up front that this was a bad habit.
Right, it's a bad habit.
Okay,
I know it
that's
is.
okay.
You know.
That makes it okay.
Well, that
And
I
that's
don't.
actually
I
a
don't like
reasonable reason to do it.
Yeah. I like to know where it's going, so I don't like a lot of surprises either. You know. So, but yeah. But anyways, back to his death.
Speaking of surprises.
You know, I happened to see that, and I cried instantly because it was kind of like the things that people were saying to him, and even Batman. And when I read what Batman said to him, that's when I lost it, because it was kind of like, you know, this is the proper way to kill a superhero. You know, he doing what he does in his element. He wouldn't have wanted it any other way, not hammered in the middle of the street, you know. So, but yeah. So.
Well, Batman has said several things to him, because I also remember, and Les may remember this too. There was one discussion, and he turned to him and said, "You were a better, what was it? You were a better." Oh God, I'm blanking right now.
When he died? What Batman?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he was. No, well, not when he died, but I'm just saying that Batman has told him several things.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking Batman hammered him in the street before too, but that's a different problem.
You were a better role model when you were dead, or something like that.
Oh, wow.
You remember that, Les?
Sounds like Batman.
Vaguely.
I mean, that was that. I mean, that's been within the last several years, but I was just, because I read that, I was like, ooh, that's pretty cool.
Well, so was Superman at that time.
Yeah.
But a bump.
Now, I think the worst Superman was the Injustice Superman. I had to quit reading this series because it's like, if I continue to read this, I'm going to totally hate this character. And, you know, they just made him this jerk that, I don't know, you just wish Batman would find a way to snipe him out or something, because you got tired of listening to him, you know. But it kind of led you into, what kind of person would Superman be if he went rogue? You know, if he started collecting people and putting them on new planets and, you know, deciding what was fair and just when his mind had been corrupted itself. So, but a very dark, gritty story for him. I mean, heck, I think he killed his own baby. You know? So it's kind of like, wow, you know.
Les and I and several others have read that story. It's called Incorruptible.
Yeah.
If you have not heard of it, or you, and especially you out in the audience, it was a series several years ago from Boom Studios. It was written by Mark Waid, and that was essentially it. Is what if Superman went evil? And it was a awesome sort of book. It really was.
And then I can't remember if this came from the animated world or from the comic book world, but when Batman left Justice League, because he had all the files on every single superhero and how to take them out if they did go rogue. Mm-hmm. Was that in the comics or was that animated?
It's done both.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I've done that both ways.
Because there was like Justice League Doom, I think it's an anime movie, but it was based off the Tower of Babel.
Okay.
Story arc, which was awesome.
Another awesome.
See, that was pretty cool.
It was, because basically what it was is that Batman had all these files on how to take out members of the League if he had to, if they went rogue and all that. And Ra's al Ghul hacked the computer and basically used it. Yeah. Now, in the anime movie, they made it Vandal Savage, but it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah, but it was never nothing that would kill them, but to contain them, you know.
Well, Batman doesn't like to kill.
Right. But then it says a lot, too. I mean, of course Batman has files on everybody. I mean, that's what Batman is, you know?
Right,
But
that's the way his brain works.
Yeah. And it
He's-
showed a lot that Superman was like, okay, out of all of the other super friends who were like, get out of here, he was the one that was like, you know what, I understand that, and I would want you to be the person to put me down if I was to go crazy like that, you know? So that was a good story, too.
Yeah. Yeah, Superman gave Batman the kryptonite ring.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, hey, if the time comes, if you need to use it, here you go.
Yeah. See, I think in the animated it was a bullet, a kryptonite bullet. But, yeah, same thing. But, yeah, and I think that was also... yeah, Phil's home. No, I lost what I was going to say. But yeah, that's my least favorite Superman storyline. Just because he's bad. And I guess, too, it depends on which side you took. I guess that was kind of like DC's Infinity Wars or something, you know. Whose side?
The Civil War thing?
Where it put the Avengers against each other?
Yeah.
So, oh, yeah, you're right. It was Civil War, not Infinity Wars. Can you tell I'm not a Marvel fan?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
I think they have a movie coming out soon or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I've heard something about it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, you know, something.
Something war. I don't know.
The purple guy.
They're
war.
always fighting over there. Whether it's in secret or...
It can't be anytime soon because I hadn't seen anything on the internet or on TV or anywhere else about it. So I don't know.
No funny memes or anything. And of course, my favorite appearance of Superman is when he was in the I Love Lucy episode.
That wasn't Superman. That was George Reeves.
That's Superman. He had his underwear outside his pants and everything. At a kid's birthday party, may I remind you.
Maybe all the kids had that going on. Who knows?
Right. The new craze.
Better than eating Tide Pods.
Right. Or sniffing condoms.
Yes, I saw something about that. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
You know, just let it go. There's, it's just they're gonna do. It's just like I mean, when our generation were kids, our generation did stupid shit too. I mean, come on, it's nothing new in the world here.
I don't think I ever would have sniffed a condom, though.
I admit I've done some dumb things, but I don't.
Yeah.
I definitely don't show it or tell the world that I did it. Hey, look, I did this. Look at me.
Then again, I guess in my generation, Howie Mandel was wearing them on his head. So.
Right. They were there.
They were there.
And they didn't have social media when we were kids, so you couldn't tell the world.
Right.
It's the same stuff. It's just there's a different way of communicating it. That's all.
May I ask something?
No.
How the hell did we get off topic?
Right.
Are we off topic?
I think we're well over second base on this one.
We were saying that Superman was the new Trojan man.
That is not how I would have tied back to that, but okay.
I had to make it fit, you know.
Well, help us out, Les, then.
Well, I would like to ask you maybe your favorite Superman story. How's that? Is there a story that stands out for you?
I I said mine was when he died. That was pretty wow, you know. I was a
True.
teenager,
Yes,
so it
yeah,
was,
she likes death. Can't you tell?
well, no, not death, but it was just different. How many times do you read well, okay, back in the 90s, how many times did you read about a superhero dying like that? Especially one that was supposed to be unkillable. It was the Titanic
what
of
month
comics.
is it?
Right.
Wait a minute. Were we in the same 90s? Because they were dying left and right back then.
Yeah, I guess so. But
Just
they weren't Superman.
People,
you
right?
know.
People were in denial about the idea that Superman could die. That's all.
Right. I mean, that'd be like Aquaman drowning. I mean, you know, it just didn't happen.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Favorite Superman.
The idea of imaginary stories came with Superman. The idea that Lois has a dream that she is married to Superman, and their total, what do I want to say? Their total belief, her total belief is that one day she will be there at the altar with Superman, and every time the story gets buried, she doesn't have the powers that she thought she did. Did not know how to approach Superman and say, "This is what we're going to do. We're going to marry, and we're going to have 2 kids." And the improbability was a great factor in those stories.
Got to give her points for persistence, though. 60 years later, she pulled it off.
There you go.
True.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
but
lasted
is he
longer
happy?
than Lana.
Yeah. Is he happier than he was 60 years ago?
Well, he's with Wonder Woman now, right? So I'd say he's pretty happy.
What?
Wasn't he with Wonder
You're still behind on your comics, I guess.
Right. What, he killed her too?
No, that was a
I'm not a big
one-off.
Superman fan, no. Like I said, I think part of what drove me away from Superman was Lois. Always, help me, Superman, and I guess being a girl, it's kind of off-putting when you feel you need a man to rush in and save you all the time. I don't know.
Well, try being born in the 30s and see how you like that. I mean,
Right. For the time period, that was the way it was, but they kind of continued that, and
it did take them a while to break it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, she didn't have powers either, but
Right.
that makes it.
But shouldn't he be
weird.
saving the world instead of her all the time? You know?
We
Meanwhile,
can
while he's
only-
saving her off the boat, train crashes or something.
We can only wish, but that's not going to happen.
There's too many to pick, but I would probably go with whatever happened to the Man of Steel, which was essentially the last old school Superman story, and that was really good. It was written by Grant Morrison, and essentially the last regular book done by Kurt Swan, and I think Murphy Anderson was part of it too. And it was a future tale. Superman had been gone for several years, and if I'm remembering correctly, a reporter was just doing a story, and he was interviewing everybody, including Lois. And it was kind of a, hey, this is what happened in was really screwed up what they did with Brainiac and Luthor, which a few years later you start hearing about Tim Burton wanting to do essentially the same thing for his movie. But it was a sweet little goodbye to the old school Superman, essentially the Silver Age, even though it was still, kind of Silver Age, Bronze Age, that kind of character, that kind of writing, because it definitely changed when after Crisis and then John Byrne was given the reins to set up Superman again. I highly recommend that one.
Okay, what about the reboots? We've had so many reboots of Superman. With John Byrne, with the New 52, with Rebirth. To me, it was almost getting confusing as to which Superman I was going to be reading about this day.
Well, we've had worse than that.
True.
I was about, pick up a Hawkman title and see if you can figure things out.
Oh,
or a Legion,
well, let's
or
not
a
get
Donna
crazy,
Troll.
jeez.
It could be a lot worse. I like the John Byrne story. I liked how he set things up. He depowered him a little bit because he was overpowered, I think. Made him a little bit more human. I definitely like the handling of Luthor. The Luthor is more like the version we later see in the animated series. The businessman who owns all the corporations and does shady deals and that kind of stuff. It's not the guy in the purple and green outfit, although that would later happen, both in the books and in the cartoon.
Well, everybody has a bad week sometimes.
True. You talk about Lois Lane being basically the girl hostage. I think with Man of Steel they changed that up a little bit. Yeah, she risked her life, but she did it to get a story with Superman, but she hedged her bets because in that story she was in her car and she drove off into I don't know if it was a lake or well, I guess it's Metropolis, so it was like the river or something like that. And he pulls out and saves her. And just before he leaves, he says, "Do you normally carry an oxygen tank in your car?" And flies off. So
busted.
The Lois that he created was a little bit more, not so much the girl hostage, but yeah, she put herself in dangerous positions and that kind of stuff, but not necessarily the pining for, one day he will marry me and I'll be Mrs. Superman and this, that, and the other. It was definitely a different take. And it's going to be interesting to see what Bendis is going to do here in a couple of months when he takes over.
Very true.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about the evolution. You went from the comic book action with the iconic pose of a man holding a car over his head, and then years later you had the radio program, the voice by Bud Collyer, who went on to tell the truth,
which I never really realized. I didn't realize because I've watched the replays of Tell the Truth, and it never dawned on me. So I'm gonna have to go back and check that out.
And from there you had
the Serial, Allen.
The Serial, which was,
or was it Kirk Allen? It was Kirk Allen. I think I said Kurt. I think it's Kirk.
Kirk Allan, yeah. And in it, you had the whole character base. I think that's where Jimmy Olsen first appeared. Then you've got the television series, because George Reeves did Superman versus the Atom Men. Is that the name of it?
Or the Mole Men? Or was
The
it?
Mole Men? Yeah, that was one. That was a movie first, and then it was broken into two parts for television. That shows you the strength of television in the early 50s.
Yeah.
So it's been a great ride for him, for Superman, and I hope to see more and more of it.
Yep.
I don't know when that will be. I can kind of see it starting to gain momentum again to do another movie. With the Justice League coming around, I think it's time to give Superman his own movie again, maybe as a wrap-up.
Yeah. Well, there's been some rumors of him possibly being in the Shazam film. But
Okay.
yeah, we'll probably get a Man of Steel 2 at some point.
Oh, the Captain Marvel movie?
The Captain Marvel movie. Well, the other Captain Marvel movie.
We're going to start picking those nits again?
He started it.
You know, one story not mentioned yet, Superman, the American Alien. That was a good little short run, too. It was an origin story, but it wasn't his origin story, you know. But it was... I enjoyed that one, too. Who was that? Max Landis? Is that right? Yep, Max Landis.
Yeah, I heard good things about that one. That was one I did not check out. May have to do that.
So it was pretty good. It kind of took him from a baby and kind of showed the weaker side of the more human side of Superman if he had one. You know, it was pretty good. Different Superman story than we're used to.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
Well, then I would take the story The Nail.
Yeah, The Nail was good too. Who wrote that one? I know Alan Davis did the art. I can't remember who wrote it.
Offhand, I don't know.
Did we stump Les? We broke him.
Well, between that and all the penis stories, I think it's time for me to back out.
Written and drawn by Alan Davis.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That's why you can't remember the writer, because it's the same guy.
Because it's the same guy. Cool.
I wonder, you talked about, Les mentioned another movie. I kind of wonder, I mean, and we've brought up the word evolution a few times. I wonder if it might be time for Superman to evolve into something a little different in terms of media. Because, I mean, you follow along through that evolution, and part of what's driving that is his kind of ventures off into other media. Like in the 40s, you had the animated stuff, the early animated stuff, and the radio stuff. In the 50s, you get into TV. He jumps into the movies in the 70s. Maybe the reason it doesn't seem like he's evolved much lately is because there hasn't really kind of been anything new for him to evolve into. And I'm not even sure this makes sense, but I don't know what the next step would be off the top of my head, but clearly something different is called for. I'm not sure another movie is the answer here. Just kind of, I don't know, something to think about. I don't know what the next phase of Superman story would be, what it would look like. Maybe Bendis will give us a hint. Who knows? Maybe not. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what they can do with what they've currently got. I don't know. If it was going to be a movie, it would have to be something really out there, something really different for Superman.
Yeah.
To kind of, I mean, we need to see a different side of the iconic hero that everybody at least feels like they know intimately. We need to learn something new about Superman. I think that's what needs to happen. I don't know how, but I'm not the writer either, so there you go.
Well, now if we're talking about evolution, let me see if I make sure if I'm understanding. Are we talking about as a character? Because I think I think we've been seeing the next evolution with him being a father. I mean, yes, he cares about everybody, and of course he loves Lois, but now he has a son, and that's been one of the things I've been enjoying the heck out of since Rebirth is the interaction between him and John as a father and son. It's been handled really well.
Maybe that could be a step in the right direction.
That also humanizes him, which is, we kind of always focus on the fact that he is from another planet, he has these abilities, but they've done everything they can to make him more human, more relatable. He doesn't see himself as, yes, he's got all these powers of godlike powers, but he thinks of himself as a boy that was raised in Kansas, and now he's in the big city.
Right, and I guess the question becomes, how do you find a way to improve on that? And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there's easy answers for sure, but
right,
that's what really kind of has happened over the decades, is that they have found ways to improve. And sometimes not. Sometimes you have to take a step back before you can take a step forward. So who knows? Maybe we have to have a several year run of really crappy Superman in order to make things better again. But I hope that's not the case. But yeah, I mean, the evolution thing, it's interesting to not just think in terms of the past for that. It's almost more interesting for me anyway to think in terms of present and future. Where is Superman going? What could Superman? I guess in a way the question is, if you could come up with a way to make Superman better, what would that be? I don't necessarily. It's almost like a rhetorical question, but I don't know. My brain works in weird ways sometimes.
Well, I think with the upcoming Justice League, the battle against Darkseid, I've got a big feeling that that's going to open up a chance for Superman to possibly travel to other worlds. He was known in the 50s as someone that championed other worlds. That later went more to Green Lantern, but I see where that could be a possibility. Have him in the next League movie to battle Darkseid, and open up the opportunity for him to travel to other worlds. Go find Brainiac, the original Brainiac, and the man who shrunk the city of Kandor, which Superman keeps within his fortress of solitude. So that could be one storyline anyway.
It's an interesting thought for sure.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm wrong a lot, but doesn't Superman get his powers from the yellow sun? So how would he go to... I mean, outside of Earth, then wouldn't he just be a person? Or a... I don't know what... How would he get his powers away from that power source, I guess? Or do I have that wrong?
That depends on how he chooses, how they have him travel. I mean, yes, if you're talking about him just flying at the speed of light, then sure, he's probably going to run out of gas at some point. But there are other ways to do that.
Well, even if you take like a wormhole and put him in a different planet, if they don't have a yellow sun, then...
He's going to have to focus on the ones with yellow suns if he wants to continue to be Superman. I mean,
Right.
That's just planning on his part, you know.
Okay.
That's just logistics there. That's easy.
Wow.
When I heard space travel, it was kind of like, wait a minute.
It certainly would make for an interesting oops type story.
Right.
He gets stuck on a planet around a red sun and has to wait for a Green Lantern to show up and rescue his ass.
Bring him some sunblock.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the 60s, there was a story where Superman had to fight Lex Luthor on another planet. And Superman was vulnerable because of the red sun. So it's kind of interesting to see how that went. And hopefully was enjoyed by so many.
Well, it seems to me that would level the playing field.
What annoys me is how often they have tried to do that, tried to level the playing field. I'm like, I don't want to say that Superman is the sum of his powers, but why are you going to give him those powers just to take them away so often? That's always kind of frustrated me.
Right.
Like, let him have his damn... You're going to give him the powers, give him the damn powers, and stop trying to just take them away all the time.
Yeah, because you fight against an alien, that's not a fair fight. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's part of the reason I never liked Superman either.
Right, and it's not like he's completely invulnerable. There are things that get to him.
Right.
You just have to be
not
smarter about it. No, but
Right.
not easy to find necessarily either. But that's part of the challenge.
Batman found him.
Batman's different. Batman thinks through the problem.
Yep.
Finds a list of solutions.
Oh, that's like when the movie came out. I said, the first interaction, he'll get his butt handed to him, but Batman will go back and he'll brood on it and learn and investigate, and he'll come back the second time and kick some butt. And that's pretty much what happened.
Right. Give Batman a even short amount of time, and he will come up with something. I mean, that's his thing. That's that whole detective thing going on.
Right.
You're not gonna kick his ass like that twice in a row.
Mm-mm.
He will find a way to put you on the ground. Whoever you are. Whatever you are.
Yep. Whatever planet or whatever sun you have, he will.
Okay. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Just happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah,
Although our discussion went everywhere. Thank you.
This is us, after all,
Mm. With that, we're going to take a quick break and be right back. And we're back. It's time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Mike.
Oh, it's my turn to lead off. Okay, so I got a Dark Horse book I'm going to start off with. And this is called Resident Alien, An Alien in New York, #1. Longtime listeners will be aware that both Les and I talk about Resident Alien whenever we get a chance. And so we've got another arc coming here. This is a 4-issue arc. And Harry, the main character, who is a doctor and not all he appears to be, is having to travel to New York. Normally he hides out in a small town in Washington State, but he's got some business in New York he's got to take care of, and so this will be fun, especially since there are, if you've paid attention to the last couple of arcs, there are folks who are starting to figure him out a little bit, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but we will see what Harry is up to this time around. A simple description of these stories is, if you're familiar with what is called a cozy mystery, that fits these stories pretty well. I think it's not a real stressful thing. It's generally more character driven, with of course Harry being a very interesting character indeed. So definitely worth checking out. I'm excited about this one coming out.
Awesome.
As am I. I'm ready for this. It's been a long time since we've had one of the alien stories.
It has been a bit.
Cool. I'm up next, and for my first pick, I'm going with a new title from Black Mask Comics, for Black Mask Studios. And this is called Survival Fetish. And this is about a man who transports medicine and information, and this is taking place in Honolulu. But he's having to deal with militia and street gangs basically battling or fighting during the streets of downtown Honolulu. And sounds like he's got some issues, and apparently he's holding some secrets. So I'm kind of curious about this one. Black Mask usually puts out some books that are, I don't want to make it sound the wrong way, but interesting. There's something just a little different compared to what other publishers do, and there's just a little slightly skewed. And I'm curious to see what this one's all about.
Cool.
Yep, I'm ready for it.
Sounds pretty interesting to me.
Okay, Les?
Let's see. My first choice is Domino from Marvel. #1, written by Gail Simone and art by David Backlund. The character was introduced, about the same time that Deadpool was? Is that right?
Yeah, around there. Something
I
like
believe
that.
so, yeah.
And Domino was a member of a failed super soldier program, but she becomes a hunter. This one intrigues me because the possibilities, and hopefully they won't toss her into the Marvel universe, and in the way that She'll be seeing Deadpool this issue and Iron Man that issue and Captain America again. I just hope they kind of let her have her own story for a while, and then she can do beat-ups with other people. I think it's going to be a fun series, and looking forward to this first issue.
Gail has been so excited about this. She's really enjoying writing this character, so
That is often a good sign.
that is a very good sign.
I'm going to try it.
Yeah, it should be good. But yeah, I mean, if you follow her, she does it more on Twitter than she does on Facebook. But she is just
She's
almost every day. Yeah, almost every day she's like, guys, I love writing Domino, and kind of going on and on about it when she's not coming up with something off the wall to kind of discuss, and that gets drawn out for about 5 or 6 hours. Not saying that's bad, but you know.
She is not one to let a good joke die.
No.
Not on Twitter, especially. She's not even one to let a bad joke die sometimes, but that's
Right.
okay. It is generally entertaining.
Yes, it is. She is a hoot to follow. Alrighty, Liz, you're up next.
Alrighty, for my first pick, I had to check and make sure I hadn't picked the first issue of this, and I don't think I did, but it's Oblivion Song by Kirkman. I think I've talked about it, the second issue. If you haven't gotten on board yet, really check this one out. It's going to be a really good story. The story's moving really quickly. In the second issue, it kind of shows us into his life of how this obsession with this place is affecting his home life and his work life, and like any obsession or addiction would do. So I'm curious because he's been looking for someone. I'm not going to spoil it, and it looks like he's getting close to that person. So second issue.
Or is he?
Or is he? Well, I think with the way that these people have come out of the Oblivion, it's kind of like if he finds who he's looking for, are they really going to be that person anymore? They've been here for so long, And I'm sure that just the survival that they had to learn to live in a place like that would change a person. So you may find them, but are you really finding them, So issue number 2, Out of Image, check it out. It's like I said, so far it's been a really good story. And it's Kirkman.
And it's Kirkman.
And it's Kirkman.
And it's Kirkman.
And I'm going to say that it's not typical Kirkman.
It's not.
This is a really well-crafted series. So...
What, did you have a problem with the Thieves?
That was backhanded. Wow.
Yeah.
With what?
Did you have a problem with Thief of Thieves? Didn't he write that one as well?
Yeah, I enjoyed that, but what is he doing right now?
Walking Dead.
Oblivion Song.
Yeah.
Right, trying to keep him writing that to try to keep himself from going crazy writing Walking Dead.
Right.
Sure.
Well, that's what he said. He didn't want any more zombie stories. This is a good monster story. So hopefully by the second issue, we'll also see who that monster is. Maybe.
That's early. I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking this monster lives in this place. So even like with the zombies, we got to see who lived in there. We may not figured out very much about them all these years later either, but, he's at least got to show us a glimpse of that monster, But yeah, different than his zombie stuff for sure.
Or Invincible.
Yeah.
Which just ended, so.
Yep.
Okay. Mike, you're up again.
I'm up again. And my second pick is a Valiant title. I'm going with Ninja K, number 6. This is actually the beginning of a new arc So that's cool. That means I was starting to wonder if this was going to just be a one-off, but I'm glad it's not, because it's actually a pretty cool story. So the idea here is that Ninjak, who, as we all know, is essentially a ninja trained by MI6. This series has showed us how he is not the first of these. This is a practice that started back in World War II, or right before World War II. Ever since then, MI6 has had a ninja on staff, basically, and Colin King is not the first one by a long shot. There have been several before him. And so this series is kind of him coming to grips with that and dealing with some of the previous ninja, including some of the ones that trained him, and there's even an original ninja. So it's been interesting in that regard. It's fun to see a new series with new stories that deal with flashbacks quite as much as this one does. But that's not. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's actually kind of fun, in a way.
It's definitely a new take, and yeah, if you're not reading the book, there is a reason why it's now called Ninja K.
Yes.
Because there was a Ninja A, B, C, D, and on and on.
Yes, there were. And without spoiling too much, the quote-unquote bad guy for the first arc of this was Ninja D. Obviously, since this is the first issue of the new arc, I'm not sure what's going on, where this is going. So it will be fun. This is a good jumping-on point, though, to get a sense of what this series is like, and to get to know Ninjak a little better.
Yeah. And there's always a previously page. The first page is usually previously, so if this is your first chance to get on, it'll give you all the information you need.
Yeah,
and
Valiant's really good about that.
Yeah, they are.
I like when they do that.
It's a lot better than what some publishers do.
Mm-hmm. Well, even if you haven't jumped on yet, it's a good refresher before you read.
Yep. It is, because in a lot of cases, unless you stockpile them for a while, it's been probably a month since you read the last issue.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Alrighty, I'm up again, and I'm going with Marvel Comics, and this is Thanos number 18, and this is the last issue of the series, although there will be an annual a few weeks later, but this is the last of this run, and this is written by Donny Cates and art by Jeff Shaw. And it's Thanos versus King Thanos, so obviously Thanos wins. But we'll have to figure out which Thanos it is. So, this has been a very popular series since Donnie took over as a writer. I know for us at the store, we're still having problems keeping copies in. Bringing in second and third printings, and we still can't keep them in stock.
Cool. Good problem to have.
Yep. Alrighty, Les.
Let's see. My second choice is from Image Comics, and it is Rose number 10. This has been a delightful read. It's written by Meredith Finch, art by Ig Guara. This artist can really get the mood right for this comic. We were blown away in the first issue with the lighting scheme. He has surpassed that in his story. Meredith Finch has brought this story forward so well, too. You get to meet more and more people in the story, but you are actually rooting for the heroes and the band of accomplices. This is just an exquisite book. And I'm really impressed with this, and I'm happy that this is coming out next week, because once again, I'm ready for another chapter.
Cool.
All right, Liz, you're next.
All right. For my second pick, I'm going with a hardcover. It's Aftershock Shock Anthology. It's 160 pages, and it's going to have all kinds of talent inside of it. Names like Neil Gaiman, Jim Starlin, Charles Vess. Oh man, the list goes on. It's a book that's going to collect short stories, of course, by all these different writers and everything else. And like I said, 160 pages. It's hardcover, so I think they've put the price tag on this at $35, which actually, if you see some of the names that are going to be in this book and some of the artwork released, it's well going to be worth that. So check that one out. It's Aftershock Shocks Anthology.
Say that 3 times fast.
Right?
Or not.
Sounds
I couldn't.
sounds pretty cool to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Just some of the stories that they showed some of the artwork to it, and it's pretty amazing. Like I said, just that much talent crammed into one book, you know.
Yep. Okay, and then for our honorable mention, surprise, surprise. From DC Comics, it is Action Comics, 80 Years of Superman. Boy, I can't talk now. This is a hardcover collection featuring stories from all over the decades. And, I mean, the names that are listed here, it would take me 20 minutes to name them all. But, you know, if you can think of the name, it's done a Superman story, it's in here. But the highlight of this collection is what's believed to be, it's never been published before, but it's a story that was written by Jerry Siegel and art by the Joe Shuster Studio. So apparently, if this is right, then it's a Siegel and Shuster story that's never been printed before. That's really cool. I've heard stories about this being, I think, if I heard correctly or read correctly, like Marv Wolfman or Paul Levitz had come across it, and it was going to be stuff that was just going to be thrown away, and they kept it for all these years, and then came across it again, and like, oh well, we need to do something about this. So, I mean, it's a nice price point for a hardcover. I'm not sure how many pages it is, but you know, it's going to be it's going to be awesome. I know I'm down for one.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm in on this.
Alrighty. Any special mentions or shout outs this week?
Not me.
No.
Nothing on this end.
Okay. We'll go ahead and do our regular shout outs then. Obviously, Manny the Martyr for supplying us the music for the podcast. Definitely go check out their music. We'll have a link in the show notes. Thank you guys so very much. Also, the fine men and women who make up Potter and Family on Twitter. We appreciate the support. Appreciate you retweeting our links. You guys should definitely go check them out. Anything you can think of. If you're looking for a podcast of a certain item or a certain subject matter, all you gotta do is go to Twitter and do a search, #PotterandFamily, and even if there's not anything you're interested in, just go check them out. You know, there's some great shows out there that you definitely should be checking out. Thank you guys for your support. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We always appreciate your support. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, complaints, whatever, we're always here. We're always willing to listen to what y'all have to say. And there are several ways you can communicate with us. Obviously, email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can also contact us through the website. Just click on the About Us tab, and there is a contact form that you can fill out. Please follow us on our social medias. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. And obviously we are on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. And feel free to follow our personal Twitter accounts if you'd like. Mike is at Mikey Geek. Liz is at Newman_L. And I'm at Tom TC Geek. And wherever you download or listen to our episodes, whether it's through iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, if you could, please just rate us with whatever rating system they offer. And if you have a couple additional moments, review would be awesome as well. Thank you very much. All right, did I miss anything?
I do not think you missed anything.
No.
All right, any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again for listening. Thank you for your support as always. Hope you have a good week. And until next time, read more comics and support your local stores.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,